Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for sticking around for the Q&A. It gives me great pleasure to have so many people from both films here today. So we're going to introduce them all up and have you ask questions for both films. So please join me in welcoming to the stage the director of Sarah Berkovich, as well as two of the two subjects, Pearl Wolf and Dahlia Schusterman. And as they're making their way here, and then from Unorthodox, join me in bringing back to the stage Anna Wexler and Nadja Oertelt, as well as two of the subjects, Tzippi Altman and Jake Polanski. Excellent. And as we're coming to the stage, thank you so much, especially the subjects. Obviously, I said thanks to the directors earlier, but especially the subjects for joining us. It's always wonderful to have subjects from films with us. So I'm going to ask just a couple questions to both sets of films, a little balancing act, and then we're going to open it up to questions. So think of your questions while I break the ice a bit. So let's start with the bulletproof stockings. So I'll start with the subjects, actually. So and actually this is for all the subjects, so think about this too. Religion is obviously such a personal thing for people. And so, did you have any trepidation about allowing a film to be made about you and about something that's so personal?
We actually, we asked somebody, and for sure we went to a rabbi. It's kind of how we do things. But yeah, we had questions because there's there are issues. But we were given the okay, the stamp of approval. So.
Great. And I will now ask the directors here, and especially you, Anna. You're in the film, so you're directing yourself in a lot of it. It's also very much about you and your faith or beliefs. So can you talk a little bit about sort of how you approached directing yourself, being in your film? Because that can work and that can't work, and I think it works really well here.
Thank you. Yeah, that was interesting. We didn't shoot it with me in it in the beginning, so for the first 3 years of shooting, even when we were shooting You Guys in Israel, it wasn't my story, I wasn't part of it, and Nadja the whole time and a few other people were saying, it's your story, you're in it, you're going to be in it, and I was like, I was very stubborn and I refused, and it was only years later putting together in the editing, when I was trying to do the first edit, that I guess just from we had to explain all these, we had to build up the setup of how do you get to this unit. There's a lot of explaining to do. So I realized, you can have text on screen, you can have people talking about it, but I felt like it would be more interesting to do it from my perspective. So I guess it's something I'm still not completely comfortable with, but yeah. So we didn't start out with me in it, and it was something that happened in the editing and afterwards. So.
And for Sarah, so what's your connection to this? How did you find them? How did you decide to tell this story?
Well, I was doing research for my thesis project at Stanford's MFA program, and I thought I was going to make a really different film, but then I had a friend send me an article about the bulletproof stockings, and I was like, wow, that's such a cool story. And so I reached out to them, and after having a conversation or two, I just thought that they spoke really well, they're really compelling, and were willing to be pretty open and let me come visit and check it out, and so I thought that there was definitely a story there to be told.
Excellent. So I'd love to open it up for the audience to have questions, so just let me know. Any questions? Yeah, in the very back.
This question is for Anna. When you met with the rabbi, he seemed to believe that certain people had a predisposition to becoming more religious over the course of the year, and that he actually felt that there were outwardly identifiable characteristics that would point to that direction. Do you share that belief, and do you think people are potentially predisposed to becoming more religious? If that's true, is the opposite also true, that people are predisposed to rejecting?
Did everybody hear that? Okay, so the question is, in the scene with the rabbi, it seemed that he believed that some people are more predisposed to embracing religion. Does Anna believe that? And if so, do we also believe that there are people that are predisposed to not embrace religion? Is that basically the question? Yes.
That's a really good question. That's a tough question. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. He's been around. My gut feeling is that I don't completely agree with him. In the movie, he says the marker is, if you have a really deep sense of hakaras hatov, or gratitude, then you'll become religious. So you know, the opposite of that would be if you're not a grateful person, then you probably won't become religious. So I don't know if, you know, that says something about me, and that says something about other people who didn't stay religious. So no, I don't know if I believe that. But he's also seen a lot of it. He's also been there and seen a lot of these things. So he must have some insight, you know. There must be a reason why he's saying that. So I don't know. I mean, Sippy's dealt with, can I put the question to Sippy? Because you work with people like, I mean, you have more experience than I do, so.
So I think there are certain types of people that are more predisposed, but it's not a matter of, oh, this is my inherent personality and that's why I'm going to cling to religion. But you see it. Like in Israel, there are certain people who they're not interested. Intellectually, they're curious, but it's not something they want. Then Israel's not going to do it for you. It's not a magic pill, oh, I came for the year and now I'm from. Now I'm religious, it doesn't work that way. And I do disagree with the gratitude thing. I think what he was thinking is, oh, if you're a gracious person, then you're going to say, what a wonderful experience I'm having, and you're going to soak it up. But I don't agree with it as much.
Okay. Another question? Right here, please.
I apologize if this question makes a lot of sense in my head. But towards the end of the film, your friend Duke said that people who are said that people who are more religious have like a lot of depth or something special, happiness, and does that devalidate people who are not religious? There's a lot of texture that we have in our life that doesn't have to do with being religious. So what are your thoughts?
So let me repeat that if I can. So at the end of the film, the conversation with Dukes, there's a sense of religious people have more happiness, and does that invalidate the other aspects of one's life that are not to do with religion, the textures that are part of the life? Are you asking that people who are not religious, are
they have the same amount of fulfillment?
Right. Is that saying that non-religious people are not as fulfilled and aren't as happy?
Is that, I mean, everybody on this, everybody can answer
that.
that one. I mean, that's a really interesting question. I mean, do you want to?
Yeah, how do people feel about that?
I mean, I can let Nadja take the question. So I did not grow up in an modern Orthodox family. I grew up Reformed. So for me, coming into this context, can you hear? No. Okay. So I didn't grow up religious in an Orthodox fashion. I was Reformed. So for me, coming into this context and kind of watching Jake and Tzipi and Chaim go through this question of what, who are they, what is their religious identity, what is their Jewish identity, it wasn't alienating at all as somebody who's not as religious. It was actually something that I could identify with entirely, and I think that having shown this to religious audiences and non-religious audiences, Jewish audiences and non-Jewish audiences, the thing that we note always is that people can recognize exactly what Jake was going through, exactly what Tzipi was going through. Even though it wasn't a religious question, it's still a question of identity.
Right up front here.
This is for Anna. So like lots of movies never get made that are filmed, and part of your movie is that you stopped making it. So what was that time period like when you stopped making it to the change to finish it?
So the question is, a lot of people film stuff and it never gets finished and made into a film, and a part of your film is it for a period not getting finished. And so talk about the period between sort of stopping and sort of getting to the point where it's finished.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to put that in, right? Because you see all these, most films don't have, I mean, they don't talk about the process of making the film within the film. Even personal documentaries don't often have that. So it was an interesting decision, I guess, to put that in there. But I think we were stuck in the edit. Well, two things. We were stuck in the editing, like trying to find the end of the story, and we were stuck in terms of funding. Like it was just really hard to get the money that you need to finish something like this. And so we took a break of 3 years, and actually it felt great. I mean, I was in Israel, Nadja was actually in London during that time, and it felt really good not to work on the film during that time. But it was always kind of something that was in the back of our heads, and I said this at the Boston Q&A. But when people, like, for all the years that we were making it, people were like inviting us to hang out and be like, oh, no, like, we're making this movie. We're like making a movie, that's what we're doing, And like, so when you tell so many people about it, like, people come up to you afterwards, like, oh, how's the movie going, Like, eventually you have to come up with something, otherwise, like, what were you doing all that time, So, so definitely talking about that held us accountable, but like it, it was really those two deaths and seeing Tzipi at actually, it was your mother, Shiva, and around then, but yeah, her mother passed away the same time as Avi passed away, so something around that time was like, really, we just have to finish this. So